Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? Hope it's fantastic and wonderful and amazing. We got a box here. We're going to open it. This is from my friends at thegamecrafter.com. If you are unfamiliar, this doesn't have a poster. If you're unfamiliar with thegamecrafter.com, they are a board game manufacturer that will print basically any number from 1 to whatever. And it's a digital press company, and I've been using them pretty much my entire game design career. Well, since Scallywags. They didn't exist back in the 90s when I was designing games. And so I'm excited to see what's in here because, for one, it's been a very, very, very long time since I've considered myself to be an active game designer. It's been at least 4 years, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 5. But no, it's been 4 years since I was really actively trying to design board games. And a lot of that had to do with troubles in my personal life, with medication that I was on. I've mentioned it before, I lost a whole lot of my creativity, I lost a whole lot of my cognitive ability, but more importantly, I lost my confidence. I had absolutely no confidence in my ability to be creative. Or to make creative endeavors that others might be interested in. So I just didn't. For a long time. But recently, my brain has been at work thinking about this particular project because I remember enjoying this particular project and wanting to play this particular project, and so I thought it was time to kind of revisit. And I've been talking about it quite a lot on social media, well, on Twitter. I don't really use other forms of social media. And I talked about it because this game was originally themed around Native Americans. It was a little bit hostile. It didn't necessarily cover that theme very well. It didn't present them very well. But it worked. The game itself worked. It was an interesting design. And it was also printed at the Game Crafter. The original game used a whole bunch of little discs like this. It used decks of cards that were Game Crafter cards. It used a board. The Game Crafter does one-off boards. And so the new one does also, kind of. Hopefully we'll get to see this. The thing I'm most excited about is since the last time I used the Game Crafter, since the last time I was actively participating in their community, they have new things like linen texture and UV coating on their cards. They have new cardstock. The old cardstock was excellent. The new cardstock is the same cardstock that Magic cards are made on. So I'm really excited to see that. But here's the new board. First of all, oh, that's excellent. I'm going to sneeze. Allergies this week. Whew. One thing I didn't like about the old board was this shiny, glossy wrap. Just never really, it just seemed kind of cheap. This is matte and more linen-y feeling. Really, really, really feels good. And here is the new board design that you can see. Well, this is a prototype. And I put about, maybe an hour's worth of effort into this. If you look at this compared to this, this one I put a whole lot of effort into graphic design. This one is just a basic layout map. It has a few new features. For instance, this mechanism down here in the old game was, as natives, you were trying to get fur to trade with the Europeans for their weapons so that you could win more fur from other tribes. In the new version, that still exists on the board. Up here, though, you're spending contracts. You're spending your government contracts. You're leveraging your government contracts to get bonuses. But I also added this little track down here, which, after ordering it, I realized this track is incorrect, but it'll work fine. And I'll tell you why it's incorrect here in a second. And that is because in the old version, remember I showed you these? These tokens represented your, like, kind of production. There was 4 resources in the old version. We had wampum, pottery, maize, and cloth, and these were the 4 things that you were trying to produce so that you could do more trades. And so you had these tokens, and every time you got one, it just stayed on the table in front of you, and this determined the cards that you would draw each round. And what I realized was this system is kind of just unnecessarily superfluous. There's no reason to have this many pieces, printed pieces in the game. I just replaced them with a track. I replaced them down here where you can see the four new types of resources are builders, electricians, fitters, and plumbers, and you'll just move up this track, and this determines how many cards you draw. So much simpler. The linen finish on this is absolutely wonderful. It's super matte. It's not glossy and shiny like this old version, which means I can look at this in any light and it really pops. I really, really like this. I'm excited about this board. The reason this is wrong is I don't have a 0 space. There should be a 0 space here, but that's just a nitpick for future. But the cards, let's see the cards because I haven't seen these yet. Oh, first of all, these are the new contract cards. This is kind of this is basically the currency of this game. I just made them cards. In the old version, I had a friend laser cut me some wooden hides, wooden fur. So fur tokens were actual fur. In this version, I just made little cards that look like signed contracts. So first off, I really, really, really enjoy the linen texture. That feels really nice. So let's see it on the poker cards. The interesting thing is, I didn't think about this when I placed the order. I used, both in the old version, now that I didn't realize this, I use a linen texture, a background texture, a background matte texture for the cards. So the linen embossing along with the linen texture goes really well together. These feel absolutely fantastic. They're nice and slick. They feel like they'll shuffle wonderfully. Oh yeah, they're going to shuffle great. This is the core mechanic of the game. So I've tried to explain it a little bit on Twitter. I've done a very bad job at it. This is a route building game, kind of. It's intended to be, but what I've realized as I've looked at this a little bit more, the map is, the routing part, like building from here to here, really doesn't mean anything in the game currently. This is more like an area control game that looks like a route building game, because what you're really trying to do is control sections of this map, projects in the new version, because unlike a Ticket to Ride, any number of players can build along this route. Well, 4 can build along this route, and so you're really trying to control these projects. And the way that you do that is at the start of the game, these little spots are populated with a token that represents what these districts have available or need. So, for instance, I have to make the tokens. I have them printed here. In the GameCrafter version, the old version, they were printed single-sided on the same type of tokens. You shuffle them up, face down, flip them, and put them on there. The new ones will be like this. I'm going to make wooden tokens for these to glue to so that they'll be nice and pretty. Those cities, when you build routes and you complete them, that's how you get more influence for those types of workers. You can then recruit more electricians or whatever, and you're going to draw from the decks. So there are 4 decks. There's one for each of the trade types. There's builders, fitters, plumbers, and electricians. But the thing is, this is the core of this whole concept is these decks, this builder deck is weighted towards builders. So there are way more builders in here than everything else, but there are also electricians and plumbers and fitters inside this deck. There's also wilds. And so what I wanted to show you is that these decks currently, as I ordered them, are not final. They're actually, I ordered extras of all the cards so that I can tweak the numbers. I actually ordered a bunch of blank cards so that I can make, maybe I want to put events in this deck. I haven't decided yet. I also ordered wilds. There weren't wilds in the original version of the game. So because I'm ordering and I'm not hand making prototypes anymore. I used to hand make all of my prototypes. I much prefer to do it this way now, just because time, like it takes a long time to sit and cut cards and sleeve them. These are ready to shuffle and play with right out of the box. So what I end up doing is ordering a bunch of extra things. Like I try to think like, do I want to introduce this into the game? Well, if I do, I will just add a bunch of extra blank cards with the correct backs printed on them so that I can add that later. And if I don't, yeah, I'm out a couple bucks. Oh well. It makes it much more worthwhile in my opinion. This is the game. The basic concept is you're going to place a piece between these two districts. You have to pay the two cards, one for each district type. So if this was an electrician, this was a plumber, you would have to discard one electrician and one plumber to put your dude there. Any number of people can be on that route, but you also have the ability to add inspectors. Like you can kind of have city inspectors on your side, which gives you dominance in that route, which is how you earn city contracts. And then city contracts allow you to buy upgrades. It works. I think so. I think it works well enough that I could say this is a finished game, but for me, there was something missing. And I think what it is, I think just from reading the rules and kind of looking at how it stands right now, I think what's missing is there's no path, there's no alternate path. The current, you just put things on a board until somebody wins is the only way to win in this game. There is no current way to achieve points outside of that. And it feels like there's a lack of choice. So I'm going to play test it as it sits. I've made a few tiny rule tweaks just because I think in the past, if I remember correctly from the past play tests, there were a few things that I wanted to touch up. So I have touched those up. But I'm excited to try it. I think that I think there's something here. I just have to figure out how to massage it into something that I enjoy, because ultimately, you know, for me, I don't care so much if the playtesters enjoy it. It has to appeal to me. And I got a lot of praise for this from playtesters, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I enjoyed it. So once I enjoy it, I will be much more willing to show it to the greater world and maybe other publishers, because ultimately I think I do want to, I still have a desire to design games. I still have a very strong desire to design games. I just quit for a long time because I lacked confidence and I lacked drive, and I think that's coming back. I think I'm getting it back. And hopefully it's here to stay for a while, because I missed it. I missed it a lot. So there you go. I just wanted to show you the Game Crafter makes really, really, really amazing products. This shipped in just like 9 days, I think, 8 or 9 days. So it comes quick. And if you're tired of hand cutting prototypes, maybe this is a way for you to go. It's relatively inexpensive, especially when you consider your time printing and cutting and sleeving and all of that sort of stuff. So thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is forestall. It is a verb meaning to thwart an action in advance, or to buy up goods in order to increase their resale price. Arthur's family thrives during financial insecure times because it always seems to forestall exactly the right commodities. Forestall. Forestall. I have never heard of it being used to buy up goods in order to increase their resale price. You can forestall a market. I mean, isn't that just shorting?